First off, I apologize. I'm not on camera right now. I will be a little in everybody and excited for our conversation this morning, dialogue, as well as um, new member on the coalition and, for us to introduce and engage with on this morning for us. And so, with that, want to start with the introduction of our newest member of the coalition, Miss Sylvia Squire. If it's okay, at first, kind of maybe toss it over. As you introduce yourself, and then we can go around as well as a coalition members to introduce ourselves.
Good morning. My name is Sylvia Squire, and I'm excited to be on this coalition. I am a longtime resident of Forsyth County. I've lived here all my life, except the time that I was in college. I attended North Carolina Central University. I received my degree in political science. I am currently working with the Winston-Salem Forsyth County school system in Project Hope. And Project Hope, if you all do not know, we service the homeless population in the school system. So I thought that this would be a great opportunity to get more information about affordable housing, to share with our clients, as well as share some of the obstacles that they may have. I am married. It'll be 32 years next month. I have 2 beautiful adult children, 3 grandchildren, and 1 on the way. So family life is very important to me. I'm very involved in my sorority as well as North Carolina Central Alumni Association. In my free time, wow, my family say free time, Mom, but in my free time, I enjoy exercising with my exercise group. That keeps me busy, keeps me active and doing things that I normally wouldn't do, like hiking and snow tubing and adventurous stuff like that, and travel as well. But I am a mission-oriented person. Growing up with ministers as parents, we've been out in the community, and I just have a passion for helping people and knowing that I'm helping people. So that's Sylvia in a nutshell, and I, like I said, I'm very excited to meet different people and to learn more about our city.
Great. Thank you so much. And welcome to the coalition. We're so excited to have you. Your knowledge, your background, and work, I think will be very, very helpful for us as we continue to try to map out our work moving forward. I'm going to call on folks based on how I see them on my screen. So I have Paul, John, Paula, and then Ryan, just to do our quick introductions.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I'm Paul Norby, and welcome Sylvia to the coalition. I have been on since its inception, just got reappointed. I am a retired planning and development services director for the city and county. So I retired about 4.5 years ago. And so I have a big interest in affordable housing, and particularly how our land development policies can either inhibit or help the creation of affordable housing. So glad to be part of the coalition.
Nice to meet you.
Good morning. I'm John Louder. I'm sorry I'm not on camera. I'm on the road, so I don't think anybody wants to look up my nose while I'm talking. So I'm president of the Triad Real Estate and Building Industry Coalition. Like Paul, I've been on the coalition since the beginning. When I first joined, I was the executive director of the Piedmont Triad Apartment Association. So I've been involved on the housing side for quite a while. Like you, I'm happily married for a little over 30 years now, and we just learned we're going to have our first grandbaby in September. So excited about that, and welcome to the coalition.
Good morning. I'm Paula McCoy. I am the director of the Partnership for Prosperity. which is an initiative that came out of the Mayor's Poverty Thought Force. This is my second term on the coalition. So very glad to meet you, Ms. Squire. And I've been passionate about housing for a long time, having served with the Local Initiative Support Corporation for a while when it was here in the city. So welcome.
Good morning. This is Ryan Alman. I'm the work for Truist Community Capital. I've been working in the affordable housing and community development space for about 15 years now. I see, what else did y'all do? I've been married for about 20 years. I have a daughter, and we spend all of our free time doing fun things with the family. Been passionate about affordable housing and community development space since we moved to Winston-Salem about 10 years ago. Welcome to the coalition.
Great. With that, also, I want to have Andronika do an introduction as well. And maybe I already missed it. Maybe you already did that before I got on.
No.
Okay. All right.
No. Good morning, Sylvia, and I would like to say welcome, even though I feel a little inappropriate because I am here supporting the committee, so I don't want to feel like I'm welcoming you. But I'm looking forward to working with you. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Andronika Morris. I'm executive director of a group called Housing NOLA. Well, really, I lead what we call our Put Housing First triad of organizations in Louisiana, and we are also here to support the Affordable Housing Coalition stand up its housing plan. And we want to make sure we're weird kind of consultants, which is not going to do a lot for our business, but it's going to do a lot for the work. We want to make sure that we're supporting this community and standing up its own plan and leaving this community with the capacity to execute that plan. We'll come back and hopefully celebrate and commiserate with y'all once we're done, but not for long-term consultancy. That's not what we're trying to do here. We believe in this motto of putting housing first, and we think we have something to teach people. And that most importantly is that how community that actually cares about these issues, as you articulated, how they can work on it together. And so that means consultants like us stepping back. And so that's what we're going to support y'all doing over the next 18 months.
Hey, can I add, this is Paula again, wanted to add that I'm not on camera because I'm traveling as well. I'm in Maryland right now, headed to New Jersey. So forgive me for not being on camera.
We all are have ours off camera for one reason or another. As I said, I thought I had a few more times. My Starbucks addiction got me. I thought I could get the Starbucks and back before our meeting, so I apologize. And then I'm sure, Marla, you've already had some introductions with Sylvia as well.
Not exactly. So, okay. So good morning officially and welcome. Again, I'm Marla Newman, and I'm the Community Development Director for the City of Winston-Salem. And I've been in this role just a little over 5 years. I moved to Winston-Salem to take this position with the city, and actually had many opportunities to collaborate and work with Ms. Morris, Andronika Morris, when I lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And so I've been doing this work for approaching 30 years. It's a second career for me, but it's one that I have grown to love tremendously, and I'm very passionate about, and consider it kind of like my life's mission and work. So you'll have plenty of opportunity to see just how passionate I can be as time goes by, but that's a little snapshot for me. I'm a mom and a grandmother as well, 4 children and 1 grandson. So very family oriented as well, but good to meet you.
Great. And with that, Sylvia, again, so grateful to have you here, and again, seeing your work and work of that you do with the school system and those I'm talking and not even off mute. But again, thank you, everybody, for your introductions. And again, Sylvia, we're so grateful to have you. And again, I've seen the work you've been doing with Project and the work with the school system and children and families. And again, that is an integral part of what we're working to pull together, because what we have stated is that we want to plan for the whole community and for all spectrums of housing. So that is a very important part of what we're working to develop and put together here. With that, next on agenda, we have a review of graphics. Is that Andronika? Okay, all right, kick it over to you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning again, everyone. How y'all doing? Even though we don't have everyone today, we want to get started moving on this. We're a little bit behind, and we're going to talk about that later on with our schedule to develop an affordable housing plan. Getting contracts signed across state lines is kind of interesting, and but we have been able to do a lot of work in the interim, getting some things prepared for you all, as you're going to see. We didn't want to just wait for the contract to be signed before we got some stuff done, and we'll figure that out, because we know that this work is important, and I'm really excited because I think this is one of the fun things that the coalition will get to do. There's going to be a lot of hard work ahead. And so we do want to make sure y'all do have some fun. And Marla, I don't know, Donna, we want to let Donna say hello before we get started, because you haven't missed anything yet, Donna, except meeting Sylvia, although you did miss something important.
Hi, Sylvia and everyone. My name is Donna Woodson. I'm not sure the introduction I'm asked to do at this time, but I'm the general manager for Winston-Salem Transit Authority, and welcome.
Thank you.
So you all might remember, it feels like forever ago, but it was really only in January when we met, where we talked about what the housing plan would call itself. And that's what I mean by this being fun. You all came up with what I think is a great name and tagline. And so I'm gonna share my screen and take you all through. As promised, we had our designers kind of come up with some options for how this is going to be oriented, and we want to make these decisions, finalize this today, at least narrow it down, and then we're going to start moving with email, sending people things via email, the entire coalition, to move these kinds of things along. So what we do want to make sure that as much as we can, when we can, and when we're coming together, we can have a conversation and hear and get input, because that's one of the important things. You know, I'm going to be traveling down there. My team's going to be coming with me when it's necessary. So we're going to be doing some of this stuff in person, but as we can take advantage of technology, we will do so. So I'm sharing my screen for everybody, and this is a recap. Sylvia, you weren't here. So the group decided on two choices. The number one choice is at the top and a little bit bigger. Winston-Salem's Housing Blueprint is the name of the initiative, is the first winner of the number one choice. Right behind it, though, there was the thought around Winston-Salem's Community Housing Blueprint, but everybody really liked the idea of this plan being a blueprint, right? As Derwin mentioned, making sure that it was all encompassing. Obviously, it has to deal with housing. And the suggestion around community housing was something that we wanted to toy with. And what we've had the designers do is mock it up a number of different ways for you all to look at, and then we can narrow it down. The number one tagline is where a home is affordable for everyone. So these would go together. And then again, another tagline was offered, making our communities affordable. So if we made you all vote and it was number one, it would be Winston-Salem's Housing Blueprint, where a home is affordable for everyone. That was the number one choice combination. But again, what because we were going a little bit back and forth, and that's one of my roles here inside as a facilitator, is recognizing that, yeah, we want to get to consensus, but we also want to still give people some options before you make that final decision to see how things work. So what we did is, again, we had the designers mock some things up. We used, the University of Winston-Salem's colors, as well as North Carolina UNC Chapel Hill's color. If y'all don't like those, that's fine, but we had to get them started with something, right? So this is the first suggestion that they, as the designers came up with. Very evocative of a blueprint, but not so on point. And again, it's the number one choice is combined. And so what you'll see with all of these is combinations and colors and other concepts. These will go on y'all stationery. These will go on some signs, graphics, the website, right? We're going to be putting this everywhere to announce the plan. It'll be at the kickoffs. We'll probably do some swag like buttons and t-shirts. So bear that in mind as y'all are thinking about this and settling on your final choices. Obviously, the colors can change, right? Depending on the color scheme that you all want to move forward with. And that's why I said this is fun, right? This is the kind of fun stuff that is, and people don't think it's important, but it really is, because it's going to be the first thing that everybody sees. It's going to be the thing that people, when they think of the plan, they're going to visual. So it is important that it represent y'all's hopes and wishes, and that it be something that you love. Another variation right here, blueprinty as well, and putting some. We love acronyms or initialisms inside of housing, so they put some of that together here. This is the third choice. There are 9 choices in total, just to prepare everybody. And this is, we went to the red of Winston-Salem University, the scarlet, I should say, scarlet and black. This one leads away from the blueprint concept and gets more into housing. And again, we can change different colors. None of this is locked. These are all ideas for us to riff on this morning. And again, like I said, think about these on a shirt, at the banner of a website, on a button, on a stationery, a piece of on an overview document. This is fairly traditional graphic here, and then this is the final one. Okay, so I know that was a lot, but like I said, it's intended to be fun. And so I'm going to share my screen again so we can workshop some of this and y'all can see it play out in real time as we make some changes. So does anybody have one that they really loved? Or do you want to see them again? Where do y'all want to, how do y'all, Paul?
Is there a way to show them all on the screen at the same time?
Let's try that. Yeah, let's try that. It'll take me a second to get them all on there, but give me 1 second because I think we can do that. Whoops. Now we're just gonna have to resize them, but yeah, that's a simple enough request. Ooh, hold on. Oh, okay. No, we're having a little bit of a graphic problem, but that's okay. We can fix it.
Or if
Yeah,
not,
I see. There was no. It's one of them got skewed in moving them into when we moved them over to the PowerPoint, one of them, it just got a little skewed. So it's not a problem with your request. It's oh, look at that. Look at technology. That was the issue. Look at technology failing us sometimes. So, but it's not, I've got it. Oops. So what about the colors? Does everybody like,
for me,
when people like,
I was gonna say, if
Go
I
ahead, I'm
could
sorry.
weigh in, I like the blue because it's consistent with the blueprint. And I'm
Okay.
just kind of partial to blue in general, as you might know, Andronika.
Yeah.
But that's my thinking, not so much from the Carolina standpoint, as much as just when you talk about a blueprint, that just kind of works together for me.
Okay, all
If I
right.
have a vote.
Yes, yeah, yes.
Now, I have a
I-
question.
I-
Is there a reason why you have Winston-Salem apostrophe S instead of just Winston-Salem?
Well, the concept is that it is Winston-Salem's blueprint, so it is possessive. I mean, but we could say Winston-Salem. We can, yeah. And if that is again yeah, like that's not a hard and fast. That's why I wanted to make sure that, because we were getting a little in our heads at the end. And I was like, look, we do not have to settle this today. We'll take the last two options that people really like and let the designers play around with them and then come back and finalize everything. And so I think that's there's still opportunity to tweak a little bit.
And it may be
Two things.
helpful. Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, it may be helpful too, as we kind of parse through them, maybe we narrow down the field again, and then maybe get them out to the whole
Yeah, and let people vote on them.
Correct. I'm sorry, Derwin.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say two things. One, I agree with Marla in terms of just the color scheme. I actually like the blue a little bit better, even though I am a diehard alum of the Winston-Salem State University. No shade to Central, but I do like that color scheme a little bit better. And then there's one thing, and this may be for the group even to think on, just that tagline, where housing is affordable for everyone. I wanted just if open to tweak that, where housing is affordable for all.
Okay. Yep. All right. So we'll pull that back up too. All right, I'm almost done putting them together here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And just to comment, I kind of like the possessive with the apostrophe S, because that implies more ownership. That it's not just something that was handed down. It's something that Winston-Salem is creating. It's ours.
Yeah, that was part of the logic last time of leaving the possessive in. And again, like we can, just because we're revisiting it doesn't mean we're gonna change it. But yeah, I think it's because this needs to mean something to y'all.
Okay, that makes sense. I was just asking.
Yeah, that's the point of this. Is we're supposed to be having conversation about it, and y'all are supposed to ask questions. All right, we got it all on one. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say blue and gold would have been my preference for colors.
Okay.
But since this is not Greensboro and not A&T, I'll
we're
go
not
with
doing
the blue. I'll go with the blue.
So can everybody see the screen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's all of them together. Oh. Sorry,
do it
there's
again.
one. I know there's one. Wait, there was one quick problem. Something got carried over. A mistake when I was moving everything around.
Okay, and Joe is having computer issues, so he said he's on the phone with Microsoft right now. He'll join us as soon as he can. I wrote him back. I'm like, we're having a great discussion. I hope you can join soon. So, he's trying to get here.
Oh Lord, that yeah. On the phone with technical support is not fun.
Right.
All right, here we go. Screen's coming back to y'all.
And Derwin, did you say where a home is affordable for all?
Yeah, for all.
Okay,
For all.
okay, because I'm just trying to take a few notes while we talk.
Okay, so what do y'all think? So we can change that we can change it for all.
Mhm.
If everybody's okay with that? So what do
Yeah.
y'all think?
I like the for all.
Okay,
Yeah.
but which of this, so let's go now that they're all on the screen together, which one of the, because we can, again, for example, the one in the center that's red, that could all be blue. Right, so again, just thinking about that in that way, right? So we could make some of these color changes if y'all like that one, or if, and again, I think I heard no one's wanting to fight for the red, right?
Doesn't sound like it. I know one thing
All
we
right.
will have to do though, is make sure we put the hyphen between Winston-Salem in our final copy.
Thank you for that reminder. I'll make a note of that.
Number 2, okay. It's clean.
So when you say number 2, do you mean?
Yeah, the one that your mouse is over right now.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one right here. Okay.
I kind of like the one to the left of that, the one in the upper left corner.
Upper left. Oh, the very first one with the boxes.
Yeah.
I think it must be a planning thing, Paul, because I gravitated to that as well.
Yeah, because that,
So
you know,
Sylvia,
that grid that's in those 4 boxes is even more like a blueprint.
Right. Yeah,
So-
no, that's what it, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Sylvia, I failed to mention that I also have a background in planning. Like Paul. So it's kind of interesting how the minds work.
I was sort of drawn to that one too.
Okay.
Paula, Donna, I don't think we've heard from y'all.
I was waiting, just listening.
No, jump in. We don't want to make a decision without you waiting.
Right. I like those 2. There was 3, those 2, and then the one at the bottom far, I guess it's my left, maybe you're right, the Winston-Salem, but of course, in the blue, I do agree with the blue. Yes, that one. So those
The blue.
are the 3 that and I'm kind of
So which one of the ones at the bottom do you like?
that one right there, where you hover your mouse. Yes, that one.
Okay.
With the blue color, yeah.
Gotcha.
The style. Okay.
The style.
I like the boxes, you know, the little, and with the little lines in between. I think, you know, that does look like a little grid. But I wanted to see what the one at the bottom, the middle bottom, looked like in blue.
Oops, hold on. Sorry, screen is there we go. Whoops, sorry. All right, wait 1 second. Let me, okay, let's do this easier. I'm gonna do something real quick because we can play it, because you all can watch me play around with this actually. Are there any ones that you all ready to just, you know, you don't like? Let's do that first. So anyone that you want to, oh no, I don't like this one, let's take it out.
I'll say, and this is me, and I'm trying to remember what it looks like, but thinking about the housing authorities plan for Cleveland, the black and red pieces to me keep reminding me of their stuff. And I don't remember what it looks like, but I know
the
some
Housing Authority of Cleveland?
No, they're the
Choice Neighborhoods Project is Cleveland Avenue Homes here.
Yeah.
So we just call
okay,
it
I
on
got you. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's the Winston-Salem. Is there CNI? Is there? Yeah, they're choice neighborhoods.
Mhm.
Let's see. And you don't want to be you don't want to be similar to that. Is that the concern?
Mhm.
That was just me, just in terms of the visual confusion that folks have. That is, it'll be different. Yeah.
Gotcha. And which one, you don't remember which one that does that? You
To me, and this is just me, the one in the bottom right, that to me makes me think of that the most, the bottom right one.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. So you want to X that one.
Yeah, and I think it's because of the housing thing, the graphic on the housing. I think they have those included in their
Yeah.
in their.
Gotcha. Anybody want to fight for this one that I've got highlighted right now?
Ryan said he agrees with Darwin.
Okay, so agreed that this one, okay, so this one gone. Okay, look how easy that was. Anything else that anybody else is like, I don't like that one, I don't ever want to see it again?
Well, the one above it, it would be similar because of the houses.
Yep, the houses pieces.
I don't like the one at the bottom. I don't like the one at the bottom left. It just seems like too long and takes up too much.
Well, that's the one that Donna liked that one. So that's what Donna likes that one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so yeah.
But
well, for the same reason, I don't like that one at the top. Not in the middle, the second one.
The second one in the middle?
In the middle.
Yeah.
The red one. Oh, which one?
That one right there.
The red one.
The one that I've highlighted?
No, the one below it.
Oh, you don't like this one because it's too long. You don't like the long ones.
I don't like the long.
Okay, gotcha. You don't like the length. You don't like the gotcha.
Right.
And I was going to
Does
say
anybody
both of those could be shorter if we act, because the community housing blueprint, remember, was the second choice. So maybe if those were housing blueprint, how would they look different? You know, in terms of how much space they're taking up, if they look too long, Paula?
Yeah, because I thought the line with the name was going to be the first choice, not the community. So I was more looking at the image or the graphics.
Gotcha.
Versus the
okay.
Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, so we've got some that we're ready to be done with. Give me 1 second, though. I want to see if we can not save, but if we can address some of the issues with some of these. Now, Donna, you like this one, but you wanted to see it maybe in the blue. And I just was wondering if we could change some of them, but no, the way they did the graphics, I can change some of it, but it's going to be too hard live to do this in front of you all to change them. All right, so let's back to the main page.
And to be honest, Andrea, I do like that one. That was my third choice. So I'm definitely on board with the team if the choice or the option is 1 or 2. I'm on board with either of those.
Okay, so we'll get rid of this one in the middle. What about this one down here that's highlighted right now?
I'm
not a big fan of that.
We can, yeah. And it's something that it with the translation when it got imported, it's not supposed to look like that.
Okay.
But again, if you don't, the thing that hits you is Winston-Salem, housing blueprint. If you don't like that, then with the arrow, it's
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what that arrow is. I was beginning. First thought is that the Star Trek thing turned on its side?
It's a navigation point. It's a navigation point. So that's okay, but that's all right. That's all right.
Sorry.
No problem. What about, so I know everybody really liked these two, right? And this was number 3 for Donna, and I know she's willing to sacrifice it. What about, before we get down to those 3, if we can't get down to those 3, what about this one to the far right here with the house in it? No, okay. And WS housing blueprint with the plan style with the WS. I don't think anybody seems like they're really excited about that one.
I actually like that one.
Okay, all right.
But it's not, I actually like that one, but so.
It's similar to the one in the up top here in the middle. So we could keep it on there and then maybe look at some of the elements that y'all like together. Okay, so maybe we can get it down to 4. So let's look at this one, the black one right here. Is anybody, and getting it down to 5 is fine too, because we started with 9. So if this is a contender, if someone likes this one, and it's kind of like, I think it's interesting. And again, think about that on a shirt. That's, on the back of a shirt and on a website, on a button. It's really easy to read. But it's okay if you don't like it either. Sylvia, you haven't said a lot.
Well, I know that you all said you wanted to keep the possessive, so that's why I was thinking that maybe just a WS housing blueprint. But Darren said he likes that, and I'm trying to move my screen so I could see.
Oh yeah, no, just tell me.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I can zoom in.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's awkward right now because I'm trying to move around in it. But we can, yeah, I can fix that.
Okay. Well, I put everybody.
Is that better?
Yes. Yes. I don't know. I'm still drawn to the first one.
That's okay. Like, and you're like, I didn't realize that we were gonna be doing this on the first meeting.
So Andronika, is
Okay.
it possible for the one that was at the bottom right? Oh, Brian's asking a question. Was anyone against the very first one? I don't know that there was anybody against it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, no, I don't think so. Let's see.
And I was gonna ask the question, about the one at the bottom in red, how it would look in blue with the word community removed.
Right. And well, I think I can get.
That was the one I think that Donna initially liked. But I see your point, Ryan. I think Ryan is trying to say, look, I think we kind of almost already have a consensus. Yeah.
Around the first one.
Yeah. And so what we have 2 members missing. And so maybe what we could do is, I think if we go back, the one at the top right, the block one, because nobody ever really spoke up on that one. I don't know if we want to go ahead and eliminate that one.
Yeah.
Modify the bottom left one that Donna identified, and then send the 3 to the entire group since we have a couple of members who aren't here.
Gotcha. Okay.
Does that make sense?
One.
To make sure
and we put it all in blue.
That sound good?
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that if there was no one advocating for the one that I said I like, the WS one, then I can remove my support for that, and we can just to consolidate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oops. Appreciate that sacrifice, sir. That's leadership. All right, give me 1 second here. We're gonna move these around a little bit so they're not prejudicial. I'm just playing around with them a little bit. And also, that's what I wanted to try to change. The new tagline, which is for all. Yeah, the way she's got these graphics set up, they're actual images that I can make a few changes to, but that's okay. That's why we have a graphic designer. Let me show y'all where I think we are. And I was able to make a couple of tweaks. Come on, computer. Okay. Share my screen. All right, so we're looking at these three. And you see I pulled it down a little bit, Marla. So it's Winston-Salem's housing blueprint. The text is going to be different, but oops. That is what she's probably going to end up doing with it in order to get it. And then moving, what? Okay, there we go.
Right, and that tagline will be shorter because it'll say all instead of everyone.
That's right. The tagline will be shorter, and yeah, the tagline will be shorter. She'll know how to fix it, and then also, yeah,
Okay.
and it'll all be in blue.
Okay. Okay.
And let's see. I want to make sure everybody. John, did you say anything?
Mm-mm.
He's driving.
Yeah, sorry about that. It took me a minute to unmute. I haven't said anything because I've agreed with what everybody else is saying. And if you ask me to vote right now, it'd be that one on the upper left. But I'm looking forward to seeing the red one in blue because I think I kind of like that one too. I like all three of them, so I'm good.
Okay, good. All right, well then what we'll do is I will get this back to the designer. She can turn these around relatively quickly. So we're hoping we'll get it to you all Monday or Tuesday next week, and we'll email it. And by the end of the week, you all will have you'll have your image, the name of your house. You already have the name of your housing plan because again, y'all just changed it a little bit, but you'll have the graphics, and then we can also start talking. We can also start working on building out the website. And one last question, is that shade of blue okay? Because that is North Carolina blue. And I know they got, you got other folks on the call and stuff like that. Or do y'all want to get a generic blue?
I would Paul, is that planner's blue?
That's planner's blue. It is planner's blue. It is planner's blue.
At least it's not Duke blue.
There you go. There you go.
Okay,
And it's a little close to the city of Winston-Salem blue because we're blue as well. It's a little off, but it's close. So
okay.
It is the city's color too, kind of.
Well, and we can make it exact. Marla, if you can send me y'all's logo, the designer can just match it.
Well, that they have to decide if that's what they like or if they prefer the planner's blue, which is nice.
Yeah,
So,
it is planner's blue, and that's what we're gonna call it. It's planner's blue.
well, maybe once we see, maybe one of those can be done in the city's blue, and I'll send the graphic to you, and then the shade, then you guys can decide maybe. That way you can see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. Let's do that. Okay. So that was big fun. I want y'all to remember back on this fondly. And it's not the most fun we're going to have. But it is important, and it is, like I said, it's going to be, and I'm glad we had a diverse group of folks on the call, including a new person who, Sylvia, thank you for stepping up and offering your opinion. Derwin, thank you for leading and sacrificing. Donna, you too, everybody, showing how we have to model the kind of consensus building that is going to be necessary for executing this strategy moving forward around something that people often think is irrelevant, but y'all are going to be sick of that by the time we're done, that the graphic, or it's going to be embedded into your hearts and minds. So you really do need to really like it. That's why it's important that you all really like it, because you're going to be seeing it a lot. It's going to be everywhere. Every whenever we're meeting, we're going to have copies of it all over the place, because it should signal to community what your intentions and how this is going to turn out. And it should be something that inspires you all at the end of the day. So I'm glad y'all like Planner's Blue, because it's a plan and the blueprint concept. And you all had fun, I think, coming up with it, workshopping it last time. So we're glad we can continue that. All right. So our data presentation is supposed to be next. Our data person is coming in exactly at on the hour. So I'm go over a few other things that we have to discuss with you all for a few minutes. I'm pulling up the agenda again. I'm sorry, I'm pulling up my work plan documents because I have to close number of files to make all of that work. It was really interesting how what we needed to do to close things out. The big thing that we need to be talking about is the kickoff event. Right now that we have, we're closer to settling on imaging. We're going to put all that together, and I wanted to talk to you all about the kickoff event, which is a public facing event. We'll be down there in person to come and talk to you all. We're going to present the data that we have here, and again, also the data deck that our analyst is going to be going over with you all. It's very preliminary. It's based on some of our things that we are curious about. You all are also going to weigh in on the data necessary. And Sylvia, we're going to be pulling you in really quickly because a data set that we find is really helpful is talking about homeless children. You all, the way we count homeless children under the McKinney-Vento Act is actually more in line with how regular people think about homelessness, or frankly, the way we think everyone should think about homelessness. Most folks hear us talking about the unhoused, and they trip right to, people sleeping under bridges and in tent cities and panhandlers. And as Sylvia will tell you, homelessness is much, much more than that. For us, it is, if your name is not on a deed or a lease, you're homeless. It's couch surfing, it's living pillar to post. It is, and it's particularly with children. And so centering children inside of this, right? And talking about their needs is a way of helping the chronically homeless, because you're destigmatizing it. And so the data is incredibly helpful. I think the people of Winston-Salem are going to be surprised to learn how many homeless children there are, because I think most people would agree that one homeless child is too many. And so we would want to get that data from Sylvia. It's not going to be in the data deck, but we're going to want to get that data from Sylvia incorporated. But when we talk about that, that's the intention is, this is a preliminary data reveal, and this is why this plan is necessary. This is why this plan has to happen, because of the needs of these children and the needs of other people who are housing insecure in Winston-Salem. So I want to talk, given that's the kickoff event, the logo is going to be everywhere and things like that. I want us to start talking about finding a date and a time. And we're also going to be planning that via email over the next couple of weeks, because we want to do it as soon as possible, because it is the official kickoff. And so we want to get that scheduled, like I said, as soon as possible. And so having everybody pull out their calendars, and talk about, number one, hearing from you all. This is the community event that we would like to get as many people as possible to get you location, a centralized location. And the kickoff can also be broken up into a couple of, we also want to have the schedule for the community meetings. We want to do it in one place with the commitment that we're going to go to every area except one across the city of Winston-Salem, and talking about and hearing from people what the housing issues are. It's going to be akin to a listening tour, something that Marla did to great impact here for us in Louisiana, kind of taught us how to do this concept of a listening tour, hearing from those folks. So that kickoff is a kickoff. It is, so first and foremost, when, where, and go ahead.
It's a quick question, and maybe I'll base for time on it, but it's more to, I guess, a Marla political question, and it is around the scheduling piece. I know the part around, there's one part in terms of not going into, but I do have a concern in reference to the ability to make sure that we're hearing collectively from the community. And I know that there was a request in reference to not doing things there, but I'm just wondering, how do we, if that is enshrined in the contract stuff, and we can't do that as members, and we can't have conversation, or is that Andronika can't have the conversations? But I'm just in the sense of how do you still get, even if we're not in the neighborhoods, in the communities within that ward, how do you still get the input from folks. I was literally just at a meeting yesterday in that area, and they were talking housing, and I was like, well, we need to get you engaged with some stuff that's going on. So how do you, that's just a thought, just in terms of how do you still get that, even though I know there's the political piece that's associated, or if it's just a total hands-off. You're on mute, Marla.
My impression is that it's a total hands-off. And so what I would say, and it is supposed to be enshrined in the contract, I don't remember the specific language, but it, you know, it was stressed on a number of occasions via email, nothing. So
But if those folks can come to meetings in other places.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I would think that with enough lead time for us to do the advertising for the events, and that they be done, you know, one of the things I could check with, for instance, is our marketing department about putting inserts into the water bill, because that goes to everybody. And we list the whole schedule. Granted, some people might notice there's not anything right there where they are, but they can know they can go to other places at other times. And I think that's probably the best way that enables others, if they choose, to go someplace and participate.
Gotcha. Okay.
Can I ask a question on that? Is there any reason why each of those meetings that is going to be held in a ward has to be advertised as this is the meeting for so-and-so ward? I mean, if it could just be labeled as a public input meeting for affordable housing, and it's just geographically located in those 7 wards.
That's
just,
right.
Yeah.
Let's not highlight. Yeah, and not highlight the the issue, because again, somebody's going to ask, well, why aren't we getting one? If we do it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it can be generic.
Cool. I'm sorry to interrupt. That was just a question I had on that.
No, it's a good question. I mean, because it is one that we were going to have to, you know, figure out, because we don't want to deny voice if there is one. So being able to still allow that opportunity is important.
Yeah, cool.
Now, in terms of a venue, this is to kind of get some feedback, because we'll need to kind of have an idea about venue as we look to possibly set dates. I'm wondering how large a venue, because one of the first places that come to mind that is easy and a lot of people come to, especially people experiencing homelessness, is the library, the central library. They have a big meeting space. I don't know if that's sufficient, or if we need something larger, because then that's when I get challenged outside of the Benton. I'm not as familiar with larger places than something larger than a library without having to jump to the convention center. I guess you have a hotel ballroom maybe, but anyway, that's a thought. And I don't know, you know, this is one of those chicken or egg, the date, you know, but I thought at least to kind of have an idea of the size of the venue would help. And
how many people can fit in the library?
Huh?
How many people can, when you say, I just want to understand like the context of how big is the library space? Like, are you talking about 50 or?
A couple hundred people can fit in that.
Yeah. I think that, I don't think you're going to get much more than that for the first one. I mean, we can talk about outreach and, I mean, you all have done a really great job of getting people engaged over the initial meetings and the public facing meetings that I've seen. So I think 75 to 100 would be great, right? Would be a really great first start. And then hoping to see more than that, of course, at the smaller meetings collectively, right? You'll probably hopefully get 30, 40, 50 at each one of the 7 meetings, getting over several hundred in totality. But in that first meeting, you're gonna get your your CDCs, the usual suspects, as well as some folks who are curious and interested in things like that. So I think planning for 75 to 100 is just fine.
Then the library would work.
I think the library would be a great venue for it. And I think they got a good sized screen in there to show graphics there. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Parking.
we just did one of our com plan meetings there last week, and great system set up. You just bring your laptop, or you can plug your thumb drive in if you want, or something like that, and use theirs. Okay, I see Alex is with us. Andrew.
Perfect.
Oh, and here comes
Hey, Alex.
Joe, too. He made it. Okay.
So we'll do a quick recap for everybody who just joined. So thank you all who just joined. And Alex, thank you for joining us. We are talking right now about the first kickoff meeting, which I wanted to get settled before you came in and did your data presentation, because we are going to go over this with the Affordable Housing Coalition today, the data that you've done, the preliminary analysis, get their input for more information. And we've got a bit of a ringer on the call. Sylvia, who is new to the committee, is actually with the school board, and actually her job, part of her responsibilities is working with homeless youth. So we will be able to get that data from her. And we want to make sure that that's included, but we also want to hear from the other committee members, any other data sets that we need to do the analysis for in time for this kickoff meeting that I want us to kind of continue to talk through. We're talking about anywhere from 75 to 100 people at the kickoff, at the announcement of the fact that this plan is starting. And we also want to look at the dates of daytime. We've got a location. So daytime, are we talking evening? Obviously, this is a community event, so we're not talking 10 o'clock in the morning. We're talking evening or Saturday. So evening, Monday through Thursday. Not even I will have a community meeting on Friday evening, or Saturday early mid-morning or early afternoon. And this is again one of the areas where we need to rely on y'all. What does your community prefer with these kinds of things, right? We go all over the place, and some people will tell us, oh, Saturday morning at 10 o'clock is when you got to do this, or you can't do you cannot have a meeting at 10 o'clock, Saturday morning at 10 o'clock this time of the year, because this is when our leagues are playing, whatever the sport is and things like that. So given that we're talking about doing this in April, because we would like to do this within the next 30 to 45 days, Durbin chimed in Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, as those are the dates that you think are good, Durbin, not bad, right?
Yeah, yep, good. Yeah.
Okay, those are the dates that does everybody agree with that? That we're looking at a Tuesday, a Thursday, or a Saturday?
I think Monday is not a bad day. I mean, I've seen some good turnouts on a Monday evening.
Okay. Does anybody have a preference? Do y'all think, given that we want to have, and we want a big turnout, anywhere from 75 to 100 people, does anybody think that there's a day that's just best suited for that, like the weekend versus the weekday? Let's make that kind of distinction. Or y'all like, nah, they'll come. If they care about it, they'll come.
I think you're right about Saturdays. Saturdays is kind of sacred for some people. They, have their children's extracurricular activities that they attend on Saturdays. So I think Saturday will be a little difficult.
Okay, so then we're thinking Thursday, Tuesday, or Thursday.
Yeah, Paul, I might just put
Paul mentioned Monday.
Or Monday.
Yeah, I was gonna put
Derwin, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna put Paul on the spot, just in thinking, like in planning and all these meetings, what kind of worked best. I just don't remember. That's why I kind of threw out Tuesdays and Thursdays, because I feel like that was kind of more of the times a lot of those meetings kind of happen. You're on mute, Paul.
I'm going to learn that eventually. I think for our planning meetings, we gravitated toward Tuesdays or Thursdays. We tried to stay away from Mondays because those were council meeting days. So sometimes council members wanted to come and that would conflict with it. But Tuesdays or Thursdays were our go-to dates for community meetings.
If I could maybe
Okay.
offer something helpful, because I'm looking at today being the 24th, we want plenty of time to make sure we can secure the location, get the word out. And so my first thought is if we could select a target week and then we figure out the best day. So
Gotcha.
I would kind of prefer that we give ourselves 30 days. So
Yeah, okay.
maybe the last week of April, if we could maybe start at least looking at our calendars for the last week of April. That is not a council meeting a week, so that would not be a consideration. Based on the way this calendar looks, I don't believe that they are out of town for anything that week, that not that I could tell, in case council members wanted to come. But maybe, we start with that week and see how everyone's schedules are looking, and then kind of decide from there which days are better. And then I can potentially, we could do a first choice, second choice, and then I can see what the library can accommodate.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. So I got a little fly there. I'm gonna be in Atlanta through Wednesday, but I can do Thursday that week. So that's the 26th, April 26th.
This is John, and my apologies. I'm gonna have to jump off here in a second, but that week, the only day bad for me is Wednesday, so I can do any other day that week.
All right.
So the 27th would work for John, Andronika. That's when you would be available. Okay.
Yep. Is it a problem? The 27th with that, because that could be a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Works for me.
Yep.
All right.
Donna, Paula, Joe, Ryan, Sylvia. Okay.
Sounds like consensus.
27. Okay. Do we want a backup date or a rain date?
Yeah, like maybe the following week.
Yeah.
Monday would be great for me on that week, possibly Tuesday and Thursday again.
So Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So that's May 1st, 2nd, or 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
First would be a council meeting date.
Okay, so that's
right,
so,
that's
so
right,
then
it's zoning.
so nothing on the 1st then.
So the 2nd or the 4th.
Yeah.
Any preference? Or I could put them both in just in case. 5-2. Anybody opposed to those dates? 5-2, 5-4. That way I can have 3 options, but the first being the 27th.
Could you repeat those dates, Marla? I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's okay. April 27th is the first choice. Our backup choices are Tuesday, May 2nd or Thursday, May 4th. Hi, Joe.
Okay, I'm fine with all of those. I just was trying to make sure.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, hey, Joe, good to see you. Any of those dates don't work for you, Joe?
You said April 27th is the first date?
Yes.
And what time of day are we talking?
Probably late day, evening, early evening.
Okay. No, that's fine for me.
Okay. Ryan, who am I missing? Paula. And our backup dates are May 2nd or May 4th. Works for Paula. Okay. Both dates work for John. See you next time. Thank you, John. And Ryan, are you good with those options?
Now, I cannot do evening of May 2nd. I can tell you that Tuesday evening, I can't do that, but
okay.
But the May 4th also works, but I can't do the 2nd.
Okay.
I'm out of town for work the week of the 1st, but
okay.
Sounds like we'd have quorum there.
Okay. So fingers crossed we can make it the 27th and all will be available We'll just have to check with George, but we should have hopefully everybody. Okay. All right. Time. I think that's the last piece. And then we can move to Alex. 5:30, 6. You know, on the one
5:30
hand,
to 7:30.
well, and see, now if we do that time, then I'm thinking that's dinner time, right? And
Yep.
so just being sensitive to if we want to go at that time, which I don't have a problem with, we might want a need to provide some.
We will
kind
have to
of-
provide food.
Yeah,
And that's in the
So-
budget. That's in
Yeah.
the budget for the kickoff event to have food.
okay.
So yeah, we would plan to feed people, even if it was Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. We changed the menu and depending on, but this is dinner. So yes, we
I
will
think
put
Food is a
food in the
draw.
budget.
Food is a draw.
Do you have a thought on length of time? How long you think it should
No
last?
more than 2 hours, including excluding the little what's the word I'm looking for? The pieces around getting everybody settled around meals and things like that. So 2.5 hours max.
So
That late in the
5:30 to
day, yeah.
7:30.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking maybe people can stop on their way from work. But you know, sometimes you get home, I know, well, me, I get home, it's hard for me to leave.
Right. It's hard to go back out if you've made it home. Yeah.
I would think you wouldn't want to start past 6, but
Sure.
particularly if it's going to last 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Paul.
So 5 or 5:30 or 5:15. If people get off at 5, you want to do 5:15.
Well, but the people, the people you're going to be inviting, would 5 o'clock be their get off time, or would 3:30 or 4 o'clock be their get off time, basically?
It depends.
And
It's
also,
gonna
there might be
depend.
people that are in this work kind of thing. So meeting at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock as a part of, because I imagine there's going to be some nonprofit people and some, advocacy people and that kind of
Right.
thing. And so meeting at, I just propose earlier rather than later, to Paul's point as well. That would be my suggestion, but I'll go with the crowd.
Yeah, I'd say 5:30. It turns just think about work, that kind of thing. At least 5:30 gives that time, and if folks are transitioning, they can come in. So we do 5:30, 7:30. That sounds
Yep.
appropriate. And I think historically has worked. So
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I like that, Derwin. 5:30 sounds like
5:30 to 7:30. All righty. Well, I got my marching orders. I will get with the library and follow back up. All right, so first date, April 27th. The week of May 1st is difficult for Ryan. Well, Ryan's out working. The 2nd won't work for Joe. So the 4th might be the option exclusive of Ryan if everybody else is here. The time is 5:30 to 7:30. We'd be at the Central Library. We would tell them the room would need to be set up to accommodate 75 to 100, and we'd need extra tables to set up the food and that kind of thing. Did I miss anything?
I don't think two quick things. One, could somebody send us maybe a hold for those dates?
Yes.
And then do we need a backup location if they're not available for those dates?
So how about if I check on that, and then if it's not, I'll ask you all to offer some suggestions as a group, just reply all. And then that way, everybody can kind of weigh in, and then I can just kind of go from there.
Okay.
Let me offer or recommend the Millennial Center as an option alternative. It's right at the bus stop. If there's residents who might need to catch the bus there. And it
Millennial
can
Center?
be Millennial Center, and it can be, set up to accommodate 75 to 100 people.
Okay, thanks.
And Paul, I think it's called the Millennium Center, like
Oh.
it ends
I'm
with
sorry,
M.
the Millennium. I meant Millennium
Yeah,
Center.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Millennium Center. Okay, got it.
We want to make sure on Millennium Center that they have the ability for the audiovisual. I mean, I've seen live things there, but I haven't yeah, they may have the ability with big screens and all that, but
Yeah, that's a
I
good
don't-
point,
I
Paul.
think they do. I think they do.
okay.
Okay, got it. Will do.
The other place you might think about is the, well, I don't know about after hours, but the Salvation Army's community room as well. And that's,
Okay.
excuse me, that's that, Goodwill. I'm sorry, not that, but Goodwill Industries
Okay.
has a
option
has a
3.
community meeting room.
Okay, yes, they do. Goodwill. Okay. Got it. All right. Thank you.
All right. We've got that settled. So right on time. So now that we know when the kickoff is, we're going to change the work schedule. Also send that to you all next week. So we can look at that and start planning things out and looking at when the community meetings are going to be happening, getting a sense of those. And again, we're meeting monthly. So we want to make sure that, but there's going to be work done in between times. So we'll have at least one other meeting before the kickoff to check in with everybody and to talk things. We're going to do a lot of work over the next few weeks via email. So I'm excited to have with you to introduce you all to Alex Miller, our data analyst at Housing NOLA. Alex has been working with us for a number of years. And so we're excited to have her start crunching the data around what's going on in Winston-Salem. One of the things that we believe in at Housing NOLA is not just sharing people's communities' data with them and dropping it on them like a bomb. It is intended to be a discussion, right? It should provoke thought. You should say, and we want to examine why it makes you feel the way that it does, right? Because these are facts. They may be they need context. They may be missing key elements, but these are facts. And it's also a really great way to help a community to understand what a community's feelings are about affordable housing and those issues, how to react to these facts. And so you all are not the guinea pigs. You all are going to help us further contextualize this. And again, there's things that are missing. We know that, right? There's things that we haven't been able to find out. There's things that we know we need to go and get, and we want to set those priorities and then turn Alex and the rest of the data team loose to go get the rest of that information and then present it to the larger community. So I'm going to turn things over to Alex. You should be able to share your screen, Alex, and get us going.
Sounds great. Hey, everyone. It's wonderful to meet you. And thank you so much for allowing me to present today. Let me just get this in full screen mode. There we go. Nope. All right. So this is our preliminary data plan. So as Andronika said, right, all of this data work is going to be happening in conversation with you all and is going to be an evolving process, right? So we don't have, like right now, I'm not going to set forth something that's going to, these are the exact data sets we need. What we know is that we continue to find things throughout the course of these planning processes through community input, through your input, through issues that come up and come to light. And we can integrate all of that into the data plan as we go forward. So this is just the first opportunity to look at, a draft idea of what our data, analysis process might look like, and to give some comments, some context, and tell us what else we really need to be looking at. So excited to have the chance to share this with you all. So there's really 4 areas of data and analysis that we think, it's a little bit more than 4, but these are kind of 4 big ideas that define our sort of data analysis process for a lot of these housing plans. And that is, and I'm going to go through each of these in a little more detail, but we have a demand model, and that really is your future projection of demand and supply. Where are we in terms of having the housing that we need? Where do we need to go as we think about population change, household formation, growth, and meeting the needs of the community over the next 10 years? Then we have a couple of things that are really more grounded in the present, which are cost burden and energy burden. So where are households today? in terms of experiencing excessive housing burdens that are preventing them from being secure in their housing, from having the resources that they need to save, to thrive, to do well in the economy. And then we also include a racial equity analysis in our housing plans to make sure that we understand how are any recommendations that we make going to address the racial inequities and historic inequities that we know exist in any community across the United States. And so we really want to understand the impact of the plan specifically on households of color. So the demand model is a 10-year model, as I mentioned. And the reason we do 10 years is the model is a projection, right? And so projections are based on what we know now, but the future is uncertain, and especially now, right? I think as we all know, right, the housing market is doing a lot of interesting things over the last couple of years that are atypical of how it has behaved historically. We have a lot of kind of uncertainty about exactly what the future of interest rates and other things like that are going to look like. We have the pandemic in our sort of most recent 2 years that is not always framed by the data yet. And so there's a lot of things about this model that are going to be valuable. It provides time horizon for implementation. It provides us thoughts about the future, but we don't want to go, I think, more than 10 years because then we're just really getting outside that realm of certainty in a more significant way. So we feel like 10 years is usually a pretty good horizon, although we're open to discussion as to whether you guys prefer, maybe even a shorter horizon or something like that. But generally we do a 10-year model. Some of the factors that are included in the demand model are things like, obviously, population change and household formation. Are we growing? Are we shrinking? Are we seeing new demographics come into the market? We need different types of housing. All of that needs to be included. Household sizes, types, tenure, demographics, supply estimates. So kind of looking at historic supply and thinking about where are we in terms of the supply meeting the future demand or not, if we continue with current trends. And then also things like vacancy and obsolescence of existing housing units. And so the outcomes of that demand model are going to be things like supply and demand estimates and gaps by income level, household size, tenure, really understanding where we see the needs over the next 10 years going in terms of production. So then, though, if we look at things, again, we said the demand model is a model, right? It's looking to the future, and it is, it's a theory in a number of ways. And one of those ways is that, when we are projecting demand, you kind of are assuming that everybody who's in a certain income level, if a certain kind of house is available, well, they're probably in that house, right? Like if we have this many houses for 30 to 50% AMI folks, and we have this many 30, 50% AMI households, and if those look pretty equal, you might go, oh, well, we're okay then, right? And the answer that we've found in some of our past planning is, and that I think we all know sort of, both anecdotally and in reality, is that that's not always the case, that folks who are, for example, this is actually one of our graphics from the Housing NOLA plan, the Housing for All plan in New Orleans. And you can see, like, theoretically, our 51 to 80% households, these are the number of households we have. These are theoretically the number of homes that should be affordable to them, but they are being squeezed from both directions by folks who are at lower incomes, who need housing that's not available to them at those prices, and by higher income folks where there's not necessarily the supply at those income levels to kind of meet their needs either. And so they actually are still being squeezed and, have cost burdens, even though in a theoretical world, right, all other people excluded, they should be okay. And so the cost burden analysis is one way of us really understanding, what are the effects on the ground for folks? What are people really experiencing in terms of their housing costs outside of the sort of theoretical world of our model? And so it helps us pinpoint some of those key issues we need to tackle right now to avoid those cost burdens. And so we can use this to think about edits to our demand model outputs, to think about specific household demographics that need assistance or, different, types of housing production, and to also understand, something we did in the Housing for All plan, which is what is our economic growth potential if folks were actually able to have housing that met their needs and they could spend that money on savings, on growing businesses, on spending on goods and services, on fueling our economy. And I think that's an important point that often gets overlooked, is that this actually has an economic drag on community when folks are cost burdened. We also want to look at energy burden. This is definitely, I think for all of us, in southern cities where there are, we're having hotter summers. We're having, our houses are not always built for, the historic homes especially are not always built for the climate issues we're experiencing now. Really thinking about whether folks are experiencing disparate burdens from their energy costs. And so we also tend to include analysis from something called the LEAD tool, which is a Department of Energy tool that can really help us understand whether and who is experiencing disproportionate burdens from just their energy expenditures alone, and really think about things like weatherization, energy efficiency, and other interventions that might actually be lower cost than new production, but could really help you reduce or eliminate cost burdens for some folks based on their energy costs specifically. So those are some of the things that kind of go into our initial data set. You'll see here on the left, we're also getting community input, and those things are going to let us draft our programs and policies. But as we're looking at programs and policies, we also want to do evaluation and use data on those to really look at how are those meeting the needs of our community, right? Our draft ideas really getting at the core of the problem, and how, what does it actually cost to implement these? So this is where the racial equity review comes in. So thinking about each proposed program and investment that comes out of our draft set of ideas as to how many households of color specifically are likely to benefit. And that's based on a crosswalk between sort of what we know about program eligibility or income levels or other things and the racial ethnic demographics of Winston-Salem. And then also, and that helps us really understand how our proposed solutions going to affect things like racial inequity throughout the community, and how are we helping to adjust and prioritize some of those policies based on this review. We also do a cost evaluation. And so really thinking about, what is the reality of making these investments? What is it going to take? And how do we match some of those costs to funding sources that may be available? And so this does involve talking to local developers, folks with good information on construction costs, on energy efficiency costs, and things like that. So we'd want to make sure with you on this, make sure we're getting the best data. We know costs are actually a very fluctuating topic right now, so it's hard to say that we know exactly what the cost of anything is at this point with the supply chain issues the way that they are. But at least having some good data points in terms of where we are currently on construction costs for a variety of these interventions. So that brings us to the sort of conversation part, right? So we want to work with you to customize this. As I said, this is a preliminary draft. There are going to be things I already heard, for example, the availability of data on homeless youth, which is something we absolutely did incorporate in the Housing for All plan and would want to incorporate here to think about specific solutions for that population. Just what else do we need to consider? Are we addressing your key questions? And what other kinds of issues or opportunities do you really foresee in this data process that would be helpful in answering some of the key priorities that the community already has and that are out there? So we'd love to hear from you all in terms of questions, ideas, or thoughts.
Thanks, Alex. And I did want to make sure everybody knew that we were starting from the same place. Marla has sent us the a number of documents that you all have already. Enterprise did in 2018 an assessment for the city of Winston-Salem. So we have that information, and there's a few other, some other analysis that are included inside of that. So don't worry about sharing anything that already exists that you all have been working on for a while. We have that. What Alex and I want to get from you all today is, given she's laid out how the data is going to impact so much of what we're going to do over the next 18 months, what else do you all want to make sure that is incorporated?
Well, I'll jump in. I thought this was fantastic. I really was impressed with kind of the way that this is kind of being looked at. I really like beyond the demand model, looking at the or as part of the demand model, looking at what are the incomes. what are the gaps that we're trying to define? What's the getting into the cost burden and the energy burden? I really like looking at that. Those are things that I have not seen before in our prior studies that have been done. And I just really like the process of how these different things are being put together at the different times during the process. The only other thing I can think of is kind of getting a handle on the where. I mean, this is very good about what. Where are those needs the biggest? And I suspect when we're talking about making use of existing housing and the potential for rehab, potential for weatherization or whatever, those are probably going to have some geographic attributes to it. And then in terms of new construction, we certainly don't want the new construction to all be in one place. So where are some opportunities for new construction that are close to jobs, that are close to transit availability and things like that, that expand housing opportunities beyond the typical areas that more affordable housing has been in.
That's a great point. And I think we can definitely incorporate some looks at the where as part of this. The different data sets are available at different levels, right? So there may be some extrapolation, for example, on weatherization, like the lead tool really works more at like a citywide level. But then what we can look at is where is the older housing, where do housing that kind of fits what we know is the profile for a need for weatherization, where is that concentrated, right? And I think we can definitely do some creative work to make sure that we understand a little bit more, as you said, about those geographic priorities. It's a great point. And I've just turned off the sharing so I can take some notes, but happy to bring anything back up if folks have a specific thing.
I wanted to also note, and this is, I was trying to remember the heading under the third row about the opportunities, or will the data talk about or discuss the various ways that affordable housing, not the building of it, or the, not even to Paul's point, the placement of it, but the way it's developed and possibly financed, and doing things maybe differently than we've always done for providing affordable housing, if you would, rather than going the old HUD CDBG way. Are there other ways that can be done and used to facilitate affordable housing that might lend itself to the term more creative in development as well as financing?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's part of the reason why we want to get a handle on the numbers, and we want to prepare you all for this, because it's going to be a big number, right? It's going to be more money than you all have available, right. Through those traditional and those conventional sources. But we don't serve ourselves by ignoring the scope of the problem.
Right.
And so that is part that has to be a part of the strategy, Joe, is identifying additional resources. And I also think, just if we can just talk about, some of the questions that were raised when the contract was approved, when this initiative was approved by your city council, there was a desire to prioritize existing projects that are already struggling, right? There was a question saying, somebody said, well, this project has a gap. Now, the gap is millions of dollars. And so there was like, we should take this money and put it into that project. That's not going to, if the project has a multi-million-dollar gap, a couple $100,000 isn't going to close the gap. One of the things that when we talk to that council member about this is that this process is intended to identify additional resources where Winston-Salem can close those gaps. So you're exactly right. That has to be a part of it, but we need to know the numbers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah, we have to know, and the pipe, and that's going to be also something that we're going to be looking at is stalled projects, where we are with, and again, the Fed did it again this week, increasing interest rates. It's going to shorten the money The money is not long money anymore. This is short. This is extremely short money. Deals that were ready to go and in the pipeline 6 months ago, 30 days ago, are now having to really reevaluate. If they didn't have those rates locked in, if it was just a preliminary estimate, they may have even already gotten millions of dollars in capital commitments from multiple sources, and now they are stuck. That's happening
and underneath to that point, though, I mean, even I agree with you, obviously, because the economics of money and the price of money definitely restricts and controls what you can do. But that is under the assumption that all the money will be borrowed money. If you're talking about possibly equity or other types of investments, whether it be tax credits or other kinds of deals that may not depend on the interest rate more so than the tax credit rate, that might be another way to do it without the price of money being an option or a consideration.
Or it could be a mixture, because you could be borrowing the money from alternative sources, say, for example, a PRI from a philanthropic institution that can offer below market bond financing, which is also going to be below market, things that are not traditionally activated in certain communities around affordable housing. So yes, but we do want to acknowledge that traditional bank financing is going to cover a huge chunk of this. That is, that's just the way, especially if you're going to do a mixture of tax credits. If you're doing 9% tax credits, you're going to have everything from bridge financing for construction and other pieces. So those are going to be involved, and that means that there's going to be additional. The interest rates are going to cause gaps in the projects over time, and there's going to need to be more soft money put up front. So because everybody's fighting for that soft money. And so we want to also encourage communities to look at alternatives that, like a hybrid money, like doing bonds. Bond financing is not often, has fallen out of fashion over the last few years when it comes to financing housing, because the interest rates have been so low. That's not the case. You're going to get and you do want to be talking about return on investments and people who are going to also look to stabilize projects, because what you don't want is if there's a lot of subsidy in these projects or any kind of housing opportunities, that equity makes people a little itchy. You want to encourage people to invest long with y'all, right? And to really stick with you all. And if they say, oh, I can punch out and get this equity and make it's like house flipping, right? But at scale.
I just wanted to make sure those things were, the combination is something that's to consider.
Yes, no, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
I'm just
I
gonna
like
do a
the
I was just going to do a quick time check, y'all. We got 20 minutes.
Okay. I wanted to say something about the energy cost burden analysis. I really like that. I haven't seen much attention to that in our community. And I think that is so important, as lots of families probably are energy cost burden. But I'd like to know what are some of those solutions once you know what the problems are, and particularly when the energy costs are rising. What have been some of the solutions for that in your community?
And that lines up exactly where Joe was taking us. Other places you can get money. And one of the things that we've been trying to help communities do with our work is get ready to take full advantage of the IIJA funding and the IRA funding. The climate change, we want to make sure people understand, and that's another piece around socializing this with your community, is one of the first things that we can do in this country to address climate change. One of the easiest, fastest things we can do today is make every home in America net zero. It reduces energy costs right off the bat. It strengthens the homes, and it reduces the amount of carbon we're emitting. Depending on the community, in a place like Louisiana, we're looking at that being anywhere from 25 to 30% of our carbon emissions. That's a big deal. we want to look at those numbers, work with your climate folks in Winston-Salem and in North Carolina and find out what the numbers are for you all. But that means that outside of traditional housing dollars, you can make pitches to the federal government and say, this is, and there are specific grants in the Department of Energy that are looking at these kinds of opportunities to help people, help communities address their housing issues, and by investing in energy efficiency, and not just in housing, but also in commercial buildings. But for our purposes, y'all are going to want to focus on the housing dollars, and a lot of that's going to be led with grants. It's also going to open the door for additional philanthropic investments, because again, if you can talk to climate financiers, climate investors about reducing y'all's carbon footprint while improving the housing stock, you can make that argument, and that opens up some additional revenue sources for y'all.
Thanks for that.
And so and that's everything from solar panels. Obviously, you're talking about making a house, weatherization, making the house light tight, airtight, stuff like that. But also dealing with durability. A lot of rental housing typically is not in great shape. And these kinds of investments also will build wealth for those owners over the long run.
Great. I think we've got a number of things we still need to cover in our next, 17, 18 minutes.
No, we already talked about the schedule, so we can spend more time on this because we're going to get the schedule back to everybody. So I really would like to, we really did plan to dig down around this for the 50 minutes with Alex, because I want to make sure that they are really, folks are really thinking about this and pulling from her, because, there's a lot of different ways to look at this data, right? Alex has given us, is working with us to a really great framework, but we also want to make sure that this is what Winston-Salem is getting at Winston-Salem's need. And so if there's anything else, because the way she did it is designed to provoke thought, which it did, which I'm excited about. Y'all know we did. Did I warn y'all already that we're policy nerds and data geeks? And I guess everybody figured out that I described picking a graphic as fun, that we have a different idea about this, but we really enjoy and think that this is so exciting what y'all are taking on here. So we want to make sure that there's space inside of these conversations to really hear from y'all.
I have a question. So as part of the analysis, and I don't know if it's really considered in the data camp or just another analysis, and that is understanding, are there things that we're currently doing where we are inadvertently making it harder on ourselves to get where we are trying to go? And so, like I said, I don't know if that's just strictly policy or how that gets sliced or diced, but that's one of the things that I'm concerned about, is, are we inadvertently tripping over ourselves? I know one part of this from a larger perspective could also be around our messaging about what we do, but just are we really approaching this? One example, when we talk about affordability, is wages. And I know the city's been shifting and increasing wages, but what else are we seeing from that data that tells us something about our ability to maybe marshal sufficient resources to really get to be able to house folks at different income levels because our income levels are so low?
So that's the thing that I'm kind of curious about, just how deep is the problem? I know we just say we need affordable units, the housing study said 16 units. And it says, we need them at that lower income range, and the city adopted, affordable housing policy last summer where, we kind of scale in units at different income levels if you're building on city land or having city investment. But my sense is that we still don't have a full grasp of how deep it is, that need at under 60%, under 50%, especially at the 30% level, right? 30 and below. So anyway, that's just something I'm curious about.
One of the things that comes to mind for me is our actual development capacity within the city and the county. Look at the data points, and I would just keep reading. When we look at nationally, since the Great Recession 2008, 2009, we have not yet recovered to the number of builders, home builders, and those who are actually building. And so how does that translate into continued deficit in terms of building? And is that something that we should be looking at also in terms of how do we encourage growth in that space locally from a business development standpoint?
Doran, that's an interesting point, and it kind of gets me to thinking, what's our inventory of builders in terms of builders who build in those different areas of affordability? Who's focusing on rental housing and who has capabilities in different income levels of rental housing? Who's doing the more affordable spectrum of single family housing and all that? And what gaps do we have in terms of our local building force, and what can we do to kind of help increase that in an area? And that's where it'll be great to have John's input. I know he had to leave the meeting, but as we move along in this process, it'd be good to have his insights as to what that looks like, but maybe we should be taking a look at that as part of the process.
What's interesting, I remember, and Andronika, you may remember, it was Paula too. We had the 2008 crash, and a lot of housing came to a stop, except affordable, because we had the federal infusion of money. But from the market standpoint,
Marla? Marla?
The city didn't pay his internet bill.
Yeah. Isn't that how it always is the way though? When you get frozen and you're frozen with your mouth open.
Yeah.
Right.
Without fail, it always does it at the worst possible moment.
I will say that the issue Marla was pointing to is a very common one that we see in a lot of these analyses, where you have a lot of gap at the lower end of the market, whether it's 30 or 50% AMI, and then you have actually gaps at the higher end of the market just based on the fact that that building never caught up, right? And so you have folks who are basically renting or owning properties that are sort of less expensive than they might otherwise buy a new home and free some of that inventory up, but that inventory just doesn't exist, right? And so that is an issue as well, for sure, that we see a lot. And, we'll have to confirm if that's the case for Winston-Salem as well, but it sounds like it very well may be.
Yeah, because my concern is for us to arbitrarily kind of put out numbers of like what we are going to build or can build, and we don't have the capacity to actually achieve those things in the community. Because you just, in reference to the builders and developers who can actually meet that goal. Yeah. With that, no, we're right about 10 minutes left. Andronika, additional things for you on there?
No, I wanted to make sure y'all had the room and the space.
Okay.
We're going. Go ahead,
Maybe
Alex.
I have
Yeah,
like one
if you have any
follow-up
questions.
question just to see if we can stimulate, like if there's any other data ideas. Just thinking about like, are there specific areas of conversation that you feel like folks are in about housing in Winston-Salem right now that our data can help verify or kind of disprove, that it can help just people think through a little bit more clearly? Like, are there certain things that the media is covering or that community members are talking about that you feel like are questions that are just kind of top of mind for people? Because those are the kinds of things we want to make sure data is going to address.
Well, some of the issues that I've had with some of our clients is not being able to afford just the unit, the home, the rental, or whatever. And I'm sure that you discussed that, or the means of getting into it, the deposits and and those kind of costs.
There's a barrier that they need to lower the barriers.
And Alex, I can imagine in our listening sessions, there's going to be a lot of storytelling. And I'm just curious about how you will present that data. I know it's very quantitative as opposed to being qualitative. And so I was just curious about how you might analyze that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think, you know, one thing that I really want to emphasize, you know, that's absolutely part of this is that like the data and the community storytelling and input have to be married, right? And we have to make sure that both of those are prioritized as we're developing our drafts, because if we don't do that, we're not going to make a successful plan. So I do, you know, in answer to that, I think, you know, Andronika, I know, is kind of spearheading the community engagement work, but we have a lot of experience making sure that together we are really recording what comes out of those community meetings and those storytelling sessions, you know, really breaking it down. And honestly, like that is probably what informs the storytelling of the priorities in the plan, right? It's not the data that says, here's our 4 or 5 priorities. It's what the community tells us that says, here are the 5 priorities. And then we use the data to tell the story of, you know, to kind of prove to our stakeholders and funders and leaders, like, yes, what the community is telling us, these are absolutely real problems. And here's how the data proves out everything the community has said, right? And I think that's, and I also, you know, and occasionally we also get pushback. I think we've all experienced, you know, NIMBY and like other sort of narratives like that. And so you do get those in community meetings as well sometimes when you're talking about affordable housing. And in those cases, the data can really help you make a case for why this is actually a really important asset. So I think it can serve a couple different purposes, but absolutely hear you that community feedback has to be really on par or even above the data and really telling us how we're going to tell this story and how we're going to create the plan. I think that's very important.
So will there be a chance sometime after the kickoff meeting, community input meetings, to go back and dig more for data?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah,
100%.
no, the kickoff meeting is just the first meeting. It's the first of a series of community engagement opportunities where, and we have it planned in the schedule where not only do we sit and listen, we also come back and say, this is what we heard you say. Did we get this right?
And absolutely, the types of data we're analyzing are going to evolve based on what we hear from community. So this is, as I said, this is not a static plan. This is kind of the bones. What we hear from community is really going to define where we're going with the data analysis and obviously the rest of the planning and policy work over the next 18 months. Absolutely. And we will all have a chance to dialogue around that.
Marla, we think we covered what you were trying to say before you got cut off. Yeah. But if you want to make sure,
it's okay. It's okay. It's just something I thought about. That's all. That because we don't know what's getting ready to happen with this economy, right? And so there's a part of me that just want us to still remain hopeful, even if we don't maybe find some of the traditional players who do this work, that they're, because I mean, So you got it. I'm sure you got it. I'm good.
With that, then I would say with 5 minutes, 4 minutes left, scheduling, was that what we needed to try to look at the working groups, Marla?
No. We've already
Okay,
talked about that. We've already talked about that. Y'all are going to be getting that in the email next week. But yeah, we've already. Yep. So no.
All right, cool.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. So we thank y'all so much. Go ahead, Marla.
The general housing plan schedule.
We're going to update that because we're a little off because of the contract pieces. So based on the kickoff, I needed those things to be solidified, and now we can flow it out from there. And yeah.
Gotcha.
So we'll get that to everybody by the end of next week.
Okay. Okay, sounds good.
And scheduling wise, I think it's interesting while everybody's on the phone that if the 27th happens to be the community meeting that we do, the next day is our next regular meeting of the coalition, as a matter of fact, if we stay with the schedule we're on now. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Thank you, Joe.
We're going to have to meet before the 27th though, right?
To plan, we'll do a planning meeting before the 27th to organize everything. But I think we want to keep the regular meeting as a time to reflect and kind of debrief and things like that. So we'll have a planning meeting.
That's what I was thinking too. I'm sorry I missed earlier about if there's an earlier meeting, I need to know, Marla, whenever you send notes out or whatever, so I can see if I'm available. And Joe, if I need to be.
Joe, and Joe, just so you can see this, this is what these are the 3 finalists for the graphic. Once we get this finalized. And what we're going to do, the designer's going to tweak these all a little bit. We're missing the dash in Winston-Salem. Everybody likes the blue. We've got another blue contender that's got another shade of blue that's going to be put in. And y'all are going to get this next week. Y'all are going to vote on it. And then we're going to talk about launching the website, some preliminary information. Alex is going to adapt. She's going to be given a template to adapt her presentations to that, so that when we come and speak to y'all, when we talk to community, it's all going to be in line with y'all's y'all imagery. So so we're really excited to get through that with y'all today. So that's it.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks everybody. You. And again, I apologize for my tardiness. Still dealing with it.
Do we have a meeting before that kickoff is scheduled?
We're going to schedule it.
Okay. All right.
Because once we know what date it is, because that'll be like we think it's the 27th. We need to confirm that. And I think we can probably get all that settled next week, right? And the planning meeting.
Okay.
Cool. All right. All right.
Everybody take care.
Have a good one.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Thank you too.